Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. Marcus Rashford's return to form has been pretty remarkable under Erik ten Hag. I'm joined by Maram, who is a data journalist with The Athletic.
Yes.
We're going to go through what is going on with Marcus Rashford, how he's back to his best, and maybe even better than ever. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. United are winning. Things are looking a bit better. Marcus Rashford scoring goals. You see there, he's got 100 goals for Man United. Things are looking a bit better, aren't they?
Yeah. It's always happier to watch your team win, honestly, because there's so many times last season I tried to close the TV and just not bother with it.
Yeah.
I think overall we're seeing a better United and a better Rashford for it, yeah.
Why do you think we are seeing a better Rashford? Because let's get into sort of from the start of the season. First couple of games, United were terrible. Rashford, not great either necessarily. It looked as though, oh no, maybe this is more of the same. What did you make of that sort of early portion of the season?
I think last season Rashford was physically broken. I think from the fact that he recovered extremely fast with his injury, got back way too quickly, I think. And then you saw him a bit bulky. And then with this season, had a pre-season, a bit healthier. I think in the beginning of the season, we saw Ten Hag trying to implement exactly what he wanted. And I think maybe it was a bit too soon. But basically, United were trying to build up from the back, starting from De Gea. And you saw them make those same mistakes, whereas De Gea making those passes and they conceded. And it wasn't good. And I think since then, I think it's been a combination of Ten Hag adapting to the squad that he's had, and then also trying to implement some of his own ideas. And I think that's why we've seen a bit improvement from there.
So with Rashford then, what are his sort of key attributes that make him United's top goal scorer this season, someone who's looking back to that kind of dangerous, explosive type of player that we've seen not last season, but in the seasons leading up to that?
I think the biggest difference we've seen so far is his off the ball movement. So I think we're giving opportunity for Rashford to run off the ball and create chances by himself and manufacture and goal scoring opportunities in a way that he hasn't been able to do before. I think in the previous seasons, even though we've had great goal scoring Rashfords, but I think in a sense that we've boxed him into this player that can only succeed with the ball. Especially, so when he used to play in the left wing for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think there United were a bit left-hand heavy and the ball kept funneling through the left, which means that Rashford developed this tendency to sort of dribble and try to create chances from there, when I think personally that his best trait is running off the ball and using his pace and athleticism to be off defenders and manufacture chances for himself.
It's interesting almost that you're saying there that one of the problems with Rashford last season was that he was having too much of the ball, that we were playing down the left-hand side too often, which you think, generally speaking, he's been out of the game, he's been quiet today, would be a criticism of most players. But with Rashford last year, there was almost that case of most of the criticism I saw was he keeps losing the ball. He keeps running at defenders and giving the ball away. So you're saying that having the ball less is actually benefiting Marcus Rashford?
Yeah. I think to be an excellent forward, you don't have to be excellent at everything. You don't have to be an excellent dribbler, an excellent passer, and excellent at creating chances. I think you have to have 2-3 traits and then have a team that's able to utilize them very well. And I think we didn't do that with Rashford. And I think this improvement that we've been seeing is that there's been a special focus and attention that has been paid to actually developing Rashford out of possession, allowing him to run and allowing him to get on the end of those chances. Especially the goal that we've seen against... Who did we play last?
West Ham.
There we go. That run towards the back post and the way that he jumped quite a bit earlier than the defender to get onto the end of that header. That was fantastic. And I don't think I've ever seen Rashford do that consistently before, let alone score 2 headers back to back. And I think doing that and giving him the opportunity to just run is great. So I think as long as you get him to keep doing that consistently, you're going to get a better Rashford,
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you come from a sort of data analysis background. In terms of the statistical side of things, do you think that we could see an even higher goal scoring Marcus Rashford than we've seen in previous seasons? Do you think that this system and this way of him almost being someone that arrives on the ball rather than taking the ball to the destination, do you think we could actually see the most productive Marcus Rashford from a statistical perspective, not just goals and assists, but his involvement, his damage to opposition teams?
I think Before the beginning of the season, I always looked at Rashford as sort of the excellent situational player. So you can use him against a team that has a lot of space and he can counter-attack and utilize his transitions and score from there. But I didn't see him as a player that can be useful in possession when you have like a settled low block. I think the difference that we're beginning to see now, and hopefully if he keeps doing what he's doing consistently, is that Rashford can turn from this situational excellent player to a player that's actually able to settle down low blocks, especially with runs at the back post, peeling off defenders, and just having the situational awareness to know when to run, know when to press, know when to step back. I think adding those traits to his game, especially heading, because I've never seen him. I think I don't remember that. I think it was the Newcastle one. It was 0-0, and he didn't finish.
Not the 93rd minute to win the game. Yeah, not an open net, but basically, if you hit that back post, the ball is in, and he put it wide. Obviously,
and I think that got to him. I think improving his headers is something I've always wanted from him, but I don't think he'd quite achieve. But I think maybe he can do it. Yeah,
that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's obviously he's 25 years old, which just as of yesterday or this week. So he's not an old player by any means, but he's getting to an age where you kind of know what you have from someone.
Yeah.
You know, typically players don't radically change their style
Exactly.
in their late 20s. They kind of refine and hone in on those things they're good at.
Yeah.
Do you think that we could see Marcus Rashford add more to his game? Because it's been interesting, like the managers he's played under, obviously Mourinho, Van Gaal, Solskjaer, Rangnick a little bit, and now Ten Hag. Up until Ten Hag, it's all been sort of a certain style, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Where he's been expected to be a sort of tricky, dribbling winger who just so happens to be world-class at counter-attacking.
Exactly.
Whereas now it almost feels like Ten Hag is, whether it just happens to suit his style or whether Ten Hag is doing this, like you said, changing his tactics slightly to suit the team, we're allowing Marcus Rashford to be someone that only focuses on his strengths.
Yeah.
Do you think he can bring more to his game, or do you just think that by honing in on what he's good at, he could, really develop to be a top player?
I think, like you mentioned, he's been playing under a lot of different managers, and I think the biggest mistake of United for the past few years, 10 years actually, is that they don't develop their players well, whether that be their academy players or the new signings, and they don't create structures that get the best out of their players. And I think Rashford in his best seasons excelled despite of that. So, for example, take his 2019-20 season before he got injured in January. I think during then we were playing like this really deep block, try to get counters and try to get space, and that's why he scored a lot. And I think he really excelled in that. But I think the moment that we tried to hold the ball, the moment we tried to hold possession, he struggled. And sometimes you could see him, but you couldn't really tell if he was on the pitch or not. He just seemed not there, non-existent. And I think we're getting back to seeing that electric presence, but in a better way. I think he's 25, but his development has been all over the place as a result of the club and a result of the switching out of managers. So before this season, I would have said maybe it's a bit too late. But I think he's really putting in the effort and the hard work, and I think the coaches as well has been paying a lot of attention to actually getting the best out of him. And if he can keep doing that consistently, he can definitely improve. And I think there's been a lot of switching around positions for him. He's moved from the left to the right to the striker. I don't like it's difficult for a player to really hone in on straights if he doesn't even know where he's playing most of the time. I think United tried to play him on the right more often to try to get him to run off more of the ball. But then you weren't really getting the best of his goal-scoring traits. And then on the left, you had those troubles. As a striker, he didn't have the box presence that you needed. I think Rashford on the left is best, especially when he's cutting inside, but also when he's able to go a bit narrow and run off the box. So, again, if he keeps doing that consistently, we can definitely see a better Rashford, I would think.
I like the sound of that, getting loads of goals and being a big part of the team. Just finally, talking about off-the-ball sort of players or him being excellent off the ball, immediately I imagine opposition defence on the halfway line, ball over the top, Marcus Rashford running in behind, which we've known since he was 18.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say world class at that in terms of being a threat from counter-attacks. I think he's brilliant at that. But that's not the only sort of off-the-ball improvement that we can see. Like Ten Hag, I think there's a lot of emphasis on balls from kind of that kind of half space into the back post to wingers.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that not just that he's scoring these headers, but the fact that he keeps being free inside the 18-yard box for headers, to me is an improvement. Not just that he's putting them in, but that he's just getting in those positions because he never even seemed to have that. So do you think he's improving that off the ball stuff in those tighter spaces as well?
Yeah, I think so. Off the ball movement and runs doesn't have to be something of like I'm accelerating at great speed for like a minute. No, it can be those really short runs that it's just basically you're trying to, for example, get into the blind side of the defender and catch him out and get him run into space. You can be just outside of the box and running in and trying to, for example, peel away a defender and then create space for another forward. So there's a lot of ways that you can move off the ball. I think one of the best titans we've seen of movement off the ball is Haaland. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to manufacture those opportunities for yourself. You're trying to create a pass when there wasn't a pass in the first place by moving. And I think that's something United lacked severely over these past seasons, is that when they're playing against a team that has a really just nasty low block, they really can't create because as much as they want to, and create repeatable chances as much as they want to, because they don't have that box presence as a striker or as a forward, and they're a bit too static. But I think with movement like Rashford's and a team that can spot him, especially like now that you have, for example, fullbacks from Dalot and Shaw, sometimes getting a bit narrow and utilising that space out wide, having Eriksen being able to supply him with long balls from deep. I think you're beginning to see slowly, I would say, development of different ways to create chances that are just not counterattacks. And I think Rashford is also developing his game accordingly.
That's great. Yeah. Great. So it sounds like Ten Hag plus Rashford is what, the best striker in the world by the sound of it? Maybe not quite.
Not quite, no.
But certainly a better player than we saw last season, if nothing else. I think he's already got more goals than last season.
If you want my answer as a United fan, yes. If you want my answer as a journalist.
About that. United fan, that's all we'll take. Thank you very much, Maram, for coming on. Always good to have you on the channel. Where can people find your stuff? Where can people find more of you? So you can mostly find my articles at The Athletic. You can follow me on Twitter, Maram AlBaharna, and that's pretty much it. Great. Thank you very much. Make sure you check out Maram at home. We'll put the link to those things in the description as well. How good has Marcus Rashford been this season? How much has Ten Hag got to take credit for it? But how much has Marcus Rashford got to take credit? Doing those bits of extra work, getting better off the ball, getting better in the air. Marcus Rashford really trying to make himself a proper... Is he a number 9? Is he a left wing, right wing? Still don't know that bit. Yeah. That bit needs to be decided. Yeah. But once it is, we've got a real player on our hands. Thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in a bit.